Well, hello guys. I think I finally fixed some issues. I was gracious enough to have a friend who let me borrow his studio mic, as you can see over here. Yeah, I just did that. Smooth, smooth. Let me just get this back adjusted. Okay, that's back. Okay, so yeah, that's me, the klutz. Anyway, so I got into a little shouting match with some, gun control nut who was so oblivious to the fact that tyranny has happened progressively and over and over and over again in the United States of America. Now, let's bring out my trusty Constitution. I carry it everywhere I go. Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Interesting how they mention militia and the right of the people in the same sentence, if you would actually see that. Okay, you see that? So why is it they're trying to say that it's only about hunting? Well, it's obviously because they've dumbed down education so much in the United States that they no longer teach this. All I've known about the United States Constitution, our history, I have really not learned anything in public school. Now, mind you, I didn't go to one of those shabby, crappy public schools that has a low graduation rate. No, I went to a public school that is rated one of the top in Ohio, even ranking with private schools. And even I still felt education is severely lacking. I was never really challenged. Probably explains my poor grades. I never really tried anything because it was just... Yeah, I got poor grades in high school, but in college I'm doing much better. I don't understand why people are so easily saying that, oh, tyranny has never happened in America. Really? Really? Okay, let's just talk about that for a little bit. There's been, I believe, several more instances you can consider tyrannical, but let's go through the four big ones I consider. The first being under Democratic President Andrew Jackson. This is known as the Trail of Tears. We've probably heard about that with the Native Americans. Yeah. Then we have another episode of tyranny under Abraham Lincoln. Now, I know everyone's like, oh, hey, what, Abraham Lincoln? What? The Great Emancipator? No, he was not the Great Emancipator, everyone would have you believe. He actually stated that if he could keep the Union together without freeing so much as one single slave, he would do it. He was indifferent on the issue of slavery. So why they point him as the Great Emancipator, I do not know. He is one of the handful of presidents I really dislike because he took the Constitution, he just shredded it. He shredded the Constitution right before our very eyes. He rounded up any politicians, any protesters, any media that disagreed with him. He shredded it. The reason why he ended slavery was not because he was a great man that wanted to end slavery and he believed in civil rights. No. He did it because there was a political reason behind it. That's why I don't understand half these things they teach in school, because if anyone would actually pick up a book and actually study history, not what the teacher shoveled down your throat, you'd see they whitewash a lot of history. Now, let's go into another example of why I say it's tyrannical in that era. I believe it was General Ulysses S. Grant at that time. He kicked all the Jews out of his military district. Yeah, he kicked them out of Tennessee and a couple other states. Yep. In the land of the free, where we have the First Amendment. Freedom of religion. Now let's fast forward a little bit to my third case of tyranny in America. Woodrow Wilson. Oh boy, I just love this guy. No, I really don't. That was just sarcasm. Anyway, what he did was he set back civil rights over 60 years with implementing Jim Crow laws on a national scale, firing every single employee in the executive branch, and so on and so forth. He even held a private screening for the KKK hit movie at the time, The Birth of a Nation. Even doing so much as, when it finished, standing up and giving it a standing ovation. Yeah. And, forgot to mention he was a progressive Democrat. The same guy who helped bring the progressive income tax! In World War I, he also interned the German Americans. Because they were of German descent. Yeah. Now let's fast forward to another Democrat. Oh, another lovely favorite of the left! Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He interned Japanese Americans. Sorry. Japanese Americans. Why? Were they terrorists? No! We were just fighting Japan and they happened to be Japanese. That happened. So don't give me this bull that tyranny has never happened in America. It's happened before, and it will happen again. It is the natural progression of tyrannical governments to eventually become tyrannical. I just can't speak today. I'm sorry. It is the natural progression of governments to eventually become tyrannical. And they become tyrannical by becoming bigger. And the bigger they get, the more power they have, the more they oppress the people. It's a never-ending cycle until we stop it. The Founding Fathers were very well aware of this. They even warned against the central banking institution. What do we have? The Federal Reserve! As you can see on every single dollar. No longer do dollars say, backed by silver or gold. But what does it say? Federal Reserve Note. Federal Reserve Note. That's a faith-based currency. This is just paper. This only has as much value as we give this paper. There's nothing backing it. There's no gold. There's no silver. There's no trillion-dollar coin. It's just a Federal Reserve Note. It's just a worthless piece of paper. The only thing that gives it value is us. It's a fiat currency. It's worthless. I want to go back to a gold standard. At least then, our money is worth something. The Founding Fathers warned against a centralized banking institution as the government will have too much power. They wanted to decentralize power everywhere they possibly could. For good reason. However, we have a president and Congress right now that are bypassing the constitutional laws, and they are overriding our Second Amendment rights. Our Second Amendment rights, you must understand, the Second Amendment is there to protect the other 26 amendments. It is there to protect the other 9 original amendments of the Bill of Rights. The reason why I believe the government doesn't want you to learn this as much anymore, the Constitution, is because it's a threat to them. This is a very threat to the power which they hold. And once the people realize that, the people will get fed up. As it is, the government is already showing how incapable they are of governing. On one hand, FEMA is telling you to supply for more than 3 days food and water just in case of an emergency. On the other hand, the DHS and others are telling you that you're a terrorist if you stockpile ammo and weapons and food and water and toiletries and all these other things. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Government should never tell people what they can and can't do. Government is not there to take care of people. Because when government is there to take care of people, they take care of you, alright? But they take care of it in the mafia style. They take you out back and break your legs. This has been so upsetting. Now, I will state to the federal government reading this, I love my government. I just don't like who's running it. But that doesn't mean I'm some crazed nutcase. I am using my First Amendment right to speak out and protest against the government. You know, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's what the First Amendment says. I'm just exercising my First Amendment, which is protected by the Second Amendment. If it wasn't for the Second Amendment, the Third Amendment would allow soldiers to actually be in our house. The Third Amendment says that No soldier in time of peace shall be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in the time of the war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. I've had soldiers stay in my house. I have no problem with them staying here. They needed a house. I had a home. My mother was dating a man in the military, so we opened our home gladly. This was years ago. Unfortunately, due to the economic circumstances, I had to move back in with my mother. That's sad. I'm 21 years old and I can't live on my own because of this economic climate. But the Second Amendment protects our right to not have a soldier quartered in our house. Now, why do we have the Third Amendment? Because King George tried to put soldiers in the houses of dissidents. So the Second Amendment protects us from having soldiers stationed in our house to spy on us. The Second Amendment also protects us from illegal searches and seizures, our right to not self-incriminate, our right to a fair and speedy trial. Yeah, you should read through that sometime. That is what the Second Amendment protects. The Second Amendment protects the rest. If the Second Amendment falls, all of our freedoms fall. It's truly a sad state of affairs that people don't even know this document. You should know this document backwards and forwards. Even carry one on your person as I do. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't break the laws. I love my government. I just don't like who's in charge. But, alas, here we are. We have to deal with them for another 4 years. The best we can do is push back. Every attempt they do to nominate a person, we block it. Every time they push a law, we block it. We, the people, must take a stand. And I'm not advocating to take up your arms or anything like that. No! We save that for the most extreme of measures. We only take up our arms as a last and final resort when we know the legislative branch has failed, when the executive branch has failed, and when the judicial branch has failed, as well as the states have failed. That is the only time. We still have the states. We somewhat have the judges if it wasn't for Justice Roberts and this freaking stupid judgment. This is what we have to do. This is what we have to deal with for the next 4 years. But I'll be here, protecting my rights. Well, I thought I'd do this as a nice little test video, and it seems to be doing